Good morning. It's great to see everyone today. Welcome to the First Religious Society, Unitarian Universalist in Newburyport, Massachusetts. My name is Steve Costello, and I'll be serving as your worship associate today. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're very glad that you're here. We come together at FRS online and in person, committed to love, peace, and justice. Our mission and invitation to all of you is to come as you are, journey together in love, act with courage, transform our world. This morning, we are very excited to welcome Dr. Jon Kolkin to the service. He'll be joining us virtually. Later in the service, Jon will deliver the sermon over Zoom, both to us here in the meeting house and to our friends online. Jon is a physician, international medical volunteer, internationally recognized photographer, award-winning author, integrative medicine health coach, athlete, and musician who has met with the Dalai Lama on numerous occasions and spearheads many compassion-centered initiatives worldwide. His rare set of life experiences make him uniquely qualified to share universally relevant core principles central to living a more balanced life, guided by compassion and wisdom. There will be a question and answer session after the service, so please stick around either here in the sanctuary or on the Zoom call. The session will begin shortly after the service has ended. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to the many activities and events happening here at the church listed in your order of service. In particular, I would like to lift up a program led by our youth. The FRS youth who are traveling to the Pine Ridge Reservation in June will be holding a bake sale next Sunday, April 30th, after church in the lower meeting house. Please stop by and chat with the youth about their upcoming trip and purchase a baked good to take home or to eat on the spot. They're also inviting bakers to support their effort by donating homemade items to sell. If you'd like to donate something, please contact Julie Parker-Amory, Director of Faith Formation and Spiritual Exploration. In addition to next week's bake sale, there's also an opportunity to give a donation for the trip to Pine Ridge through the envelope fundraiser that's going on in the vestibule. As you leave the sanctuary and go into the vestibule, on the far right door, you'll see a number of envelopes tacked to the wall. Each one has a number written on it, and the idea is you can take an envelope and then make a donation in the amount that's on the outside of the envelope. I can speak for the youth and the adults traveling with them. They thank you for all of your support. Finally, and equally importantly, is the FRS auction. It's coming up on May 5th. So please stop by the auction table after the service to buy tickets to this fun evening of fellowship and fundraising. Thank you. It's good to be together.
Good morning. Today's call to worship begins with a short passage from Jon Kolkin's book, Inner Harmony. It opens with a poem that is also the quote on the front of your order of service. Understanding eyes, listening ears, caring hands, loving hearts. Nurturing is in the details. And Jon goes on to share this story. One time while visiting the Palpung Sheradling Monastery in Bir, India, I was sitting quietly, conversing with a senior monk. I casually inquired about his family, even though my intent was to learn about his biological family. It soon became clear that his comments regarded the monks who had raised him and shaped the dynamics of his daily life. Opening my mind to a deeper meaning of family, I reflected on how the myriad of circumstances that shape us reveal our alliance and interconnectedness with all of humanity nature, and the cosmos. I love this little story and how it relates to the message that Jon will bring to us today. Family means different things to different people. How do you define family at this time in your life? Maybe it's your relatives, maybe it's the people dear to your heart, maybe it's people in this church, maybe whatever that is. All of humanity, all of creation. We all define family differently. And perhaps you feel like you have several different families, or maybe you long for family. What does it mean to nurture and to care for one another? To live in harmony with one another? Again, Jon Kolkin's words. Understanding eyes, listening ears, caring hands, loving hearts. Nurturing is in the details. We are faithfully called to worship.
How's that? Good morning, all. Please join us in saying our Chalice Lighting words. We gather together as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Each week we light 2 candles of peace, usually representing 2 places on earth that we lift up and remember as a shared encounter with our world. Today, in alignment with Dr. Jon Kolkin's talk, we light candles to place 2 questions into our hearts and into the mass consciousness. 2 questions related to compassion and living in balance with one another. Questions that invite us to carefully consider who we are and what is the world, what kind of world are we creating together. After each candle is lit, I will invite you to place that question in your heart and lift it up to the consciousness as we say, peace, soul, shalom. Our first candle is lit for the first question, a question for all of us, for everyone to ask of themselves. The question, who do I choose to be? How do I choose to show up in my daily living? We place this question in our hearts and we lift it up to the consciousness, peace, soul, shalom. And our second candle is for the second question, a question for us to ask of one another. Who do we choose to be together? As families, as faith organizations, as cities, as countries, as a global society, how do we choose to show up for one another? We place this question in our hearts and we lift it up to the consciousness. Peace, soul, shalom. Just take another breath and take that in. And then please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn. It's number 299, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. Please remain standing as we join our voices in the affirmation of faith, followed by the doxology. The words are printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land, by every tongue. Please be seated.
The generosity of our community is an essential ministry that supports the work of the church both in Newburyport and beyond. Each week, 50% of the Sunday offering not designated as a pledge goes to a local community partner engaged in important efforts to transform our region. The April Shared Collection will support Merrimack Valley Black and Brown Voices. Merrimack Valley Black and Brown Voices provides Black, Indigenous, and people of color across the Merrimack Valley, wrong river, of Massachusetts, with a safe space to connect, share resources, and create systemic change to eliminate prejudice and discrimination in surrounding communities. They plan social and cultural events. They also provide support for individuals and families in financial need, local Black and Brown-owned businesses, and more. Please answer the call to support Black and Brown Voices. In order to give online, please use the link in your order of service or below the live stream. You can also make a contribution by text, and of course, you can always mail a check to the church as well. Thank you. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Each Sunday, we lift up joys and sorrows of our beloved faith community. And Stephen Wolf Foster, who's kind of busy this morning, he's our pastoral care associate. He will be lighting candles as I speak people's names. If you would like to share a joy or a sorrow for future Sundays to be read in a Sunday morning service, please send an email to betweenus@frs.org, FRSUU.org, or write your message in the Joys and Sorrows book that you'll find in the vestibule before the service. This morning, Helen Mergida writes, she asks for prayers of remembrance for Tom Riley, the husband of her dear friend Lillian Riley. Tom died peacefully after a long battle with ravages of dementia. And we light a candle of joy to celebrate Ken Kretsch. Two members of our church family hold up and herald Ken, who celebrates his 90th birthday this coming Tuesday. And they write, "We honor Ken and his multitudinous contributions to this beloved community as chorister, educator, craftsman, mentor, and friend." Love you, Kenny. And we light one more candle, representing all those joys and sorrows that remain unsaid, yet are held in just as much love and care. So as we hold the Rileys, and we hold Ken and others in our hearts, allow yourself to be held in the arms of love this morning. Allow yourself to rest in the stillness of this moment. Be aware of what you may be grateful for from this last week. And be gently honest with yourself. What is the care and compassion that you need this week? Let both the joys and the sorrows and concerns of your heart be here now. And give yourself permission and space to simply be with what is. At least for this moment, no need to fix, no need to resolve, just to be present with it. And I'll leave you in the silence for a moment, then I will return. Oh, great mystery, there is so much. Sometimes it feels like we're doing okay, maybe even really well. And other times, it can just feel like too much. Give us space to breathe. Give us time to reflect. And let there be wisdom present within us and around us. Wisdom that guides our next steps. And so may it be. Before our reading this morning, I just want to say a special thank you to Justin and our technology team for juggling many things this morning to work. And so, yes, indeed. And if there are little pauses along the way, just be patient. Something is coming as we keep going. So the reading this morning also comes from Jon Kolkin's book, Inner Harmony. It's called Calm Pools Within, and begins again with a 3-line poem. Underneath the waves, tranquility blossoms, fragrance of peace. While visiting a monastery in Ladakh, I noticed a woman praying. Her head was leaning gently against the outer wall of a small temple devoted to Tara, the Mother of Compassion. After finishing her recitations, I approached her to inquire why she had not gone inside the temple to pray. This devout woman explained that she had traveled a long distance and felt a very special bond with this most revered female deity. But when she arrived, she found that the door of the temple was locked. So she simply regrouped and found another way to physically and spiritually connect with Tara. I understood the possible parallel between the challenge she faced and how regaining stability and clarity is sometimes needed in the middle of performing complicated surgery. Tensions can cloud perception. Pausing for a moment to calm my body and mind helps me and everyone else in the operating room restore their balance, enabling us to approach the situation with greater clarity. Collecting calm, whether on a road or in a hospital or elsewhere. Collecting calm can provide the support we need to tap into our strengths and be more effective when responding to daily challenges.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Maybe if someone can send me a thumbs up signal, that would be helpful. First, I would like to thank all of you for the honor of being with you today. It is indeed a great honor. I'll be speaking for about 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll be focusing primarily on the source of happiness, the source of inner harmony. And then, as was mentioned previously, after the service, I'd love to have a conversation with all of you that can stay and also field some questions and share some thoughts related to practical strategies that all of us might incorporate into our daily lives that can help us deal with the challenges that we all inevitably face. So I would like to start by sharing my screen, and I may need some help in doing that because I don't see a share screen option available to me just yet. And once I have that, hopefully I'll be able to share with you a PowerPoint presentation that goes over some of these topics that we've just talked about. So far, I still don't see a share screen, which we did have before, and it worked just fine. Let me see if we can get something going here. Ah, here we go. Now we have a share screen. And I hope everyone can see this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right in. So what we'll be having a conversation about today is living a balanced life guided by compassion and wisdom. And first, a bit of gratitude to your congregation for inviting me, and particularly to Reverend Rebecca and Justin and Alan, on all those behind the scenes who have helped. Your congregant and my dear friend, Lance Heidi, who, as many of you know, has been instrumental in designing many of Ansel Adams' books, and was also instrumental in designing the Inner Harmony Living in Balance book and supporting me in that. Actually, the poetry that was read was written by a dear friend of mine, Dr. Paula Arai, a Buddhist scholar, whereas the prose and the photographs are all mine. My gratitude always to His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, who not only contributed a foreword to the book, but also has helped in my compassion-related projects around the world, and his representatives over the years. And also the Queen Mother of Bhutan, who I just met for the first time 2 weeks ago. I just got back from Bhutan last week. Bhutan and India, she also contributed a foreword to the book. And the Shades of Compassion Foundation, which has been very supportive of my work. And last but certainly not least, you'll notice there's someone in all of these photographs. That's my granddaughter, Caroline. She's the apple of everyone's eye, but now is competing with her youngest sister, Joanna. So my gratitude to all of them. So here's a question for everyone here. And I can't see all of you, though I can see some on Zoom. Who wants to be happy? Raise your hands. Come on, I can see some of you. Who wants to be happy? Well, I think we all do. We all do. We all want to be happy. The question is, how do we find that secret formula? Well, I must say I'm not an authority on happiness or anything else, but I will share some ideas and some research that I've done, and those experts in the world that I've spoken with and I've been around, and share some of their thoughts. So what's the recipe for happiness? Well, there are certainly external factors that contribute to happiness, and sociology studies support this. The first of 5 is shelter, a place to lie our heads at night. The next is food to eat, palatable water, and a secure environment. There was a study out of Harvard that's ongoing, started in 1938. What are the predictors of happiness? And this was among a group of men in underserved part of Boston. And what they found, that regardless of socioeconomic status, the key factors were number one, taking care of our physical health. That means proper exercise, sleep, and nutrition. But interesting, number 2 is when people were committed to something in the world beyond themselves, they were so much happier. So strong personal relationships are key to being happy. Those are all external factors, but the reality is that we can't control everything that happens in our lives. I mean, it's just things happen. But we do have control over how we will respond, and that was alluded to earlier in the service. I'm frequently made aware when there's a patient that has this particular medical condition, it can be identical to a medical condition, at least on paper, to another individual. Well, one is all broken up over it and they fall apart when they hear the diagnosis. Whereas the second person with the exact same diagnosis will say, oh, this is so wonderful. Now at least we know what the problem is and some of the options and how to maybe help make it better. It's all about our response, what's going on internally. So what are the internal factors that contribute to happiness? Well, I suggest that you watch this documentary, Mission Joy, between the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, both of which have faced significant challenges in their lives. But I can tell you from personal experience, having been around His Holiness a number of times, that he's found healthy ways of dealing with the stresses of life. So what I'd like to propose is that true happiness comes from within, or what His Holiness would call inner peace. There's what's called the resiliency zone, or what I like to call the Goldilocks zone. And if we're able to stay in that zone emotionally, mentally, physically, then things are okay. It's when we go to the extremes of excessive joy, where it maybe not be appropriate, or excessive sadness, that we tend to get out of that resiliency zone. And that's when we run into trouble. So how do we stay into that resiliency zone? Well, I'd like to emphasize, first of all, that we're not talking about going from a chaotic situation to a monochromatic, tranquil world where we don't have fluctuations. That's normal. That's normal. It's just, how do we find that zone where we are most comfortable and most effective and most healthy? I'd like to suggest that inner harmony can only be achieved if we live a balanced life. That's what I'm referring to here. And a balanced life requires compassion, which I'll define in a minute, guided by wisdom. So in Buddhism, they have compassion represented by the scepter, or the dorji, which is also associated with the male, and wisdom, the bell drilbu, associated with the female. And when they're praying, they cross them back and forth. And it really emphasizes the interconnectedness and interdependence of those two factors. We can have the best of intentions, but it's not true compassion if it's not guided by wisdom. So what is compassion? Well, I would like to propose this definition: the intention to respond with kindness toward those who might benefit, motivated by a true concern for their well-being, not what am I going to get out of it? Am I going to go to heaven by being nice to them? No, it's being kind to them because it's the right thing to do. If I end up going to heaven, that's icing on the cake, but that's not the underlying reason. Sure, it's true, it's human nature that we oftentimes are kind, and we have in the back of our mind that we might get something out of it, but that can't be the primary focus. So why do I say kindness toward those who might benefit, as opposed to kindness toward those who are suffering? Well, I'd like to suggest something that maybe is a different way of looking at this concept, and maybe a more healthy way of looking at it. Suffering is actually a mistranslation of dukkha, which was from the Sanskrit. Sukha, the antonym of that, is at ease or in balance, whereas dukkha really means non-ease or out of balance. It doesn't mean the word suffering. The original analogy for dukkha was probably the wheels of an ox cart being out of alignment, out of balance. And we can all associate with that. We can all relate to that. I can relate to being out of balance. I'm always somewhat out of balance. But do I need to look at every child that I come across or every bird, and in order to be motivated to be kind to them, have to look at them first as being suffering? No, that's not healthy. Therefore, compassion targets all who are out of balance. And that benefits both the giver and receiver. And that helps them both physically and emotionally. I really like the song that was just sung in this service. May I be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. Kindness toward others, kindness toward those who might benefit, and we all benefit from it. We can all be well. May we be whole. We will all be whole. In contrast, absorbing the suffering of others while simultaneously avoiding personal harm actually requires years of training under expert supervision. In Buddhism, that's called Tonglen. In contrast, those who repeatedly share in the suffering of others without those safeguards, which is affective empathy, whether intentionally or unintentionally trying to absorb that suffering of others, it's unhealthy. It can lead to chronic distress and anxiety. That's what medicine tells us. Physical and emotional illness, chronic fatigue, exhaustion, social withdrawal, and burnout. And if you think about what we've been through during the COVID and the bombardment that we all get from the news, we all are exhausted from that. It's not healthy to be constantly exposed to all the trauma that's in the world, because in reality, there's a lot of good in the world. Hillel, the Jewish scholar, has this wonderful quote that I love in 3 stanzas. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? So the idea is compassion for self balanced with compassion for others, and it needs to be tied to action. Perfect example, as I said, I just got back from Bhutan a week or so ago, and when they were faced with the pandemic, and this is not a political comment I'm making, I'm just sharing with you, the 5th king decided that once they had enough vaccine to give vaccination to all the adults in the population, and it's they're spread out all over the Himalayas, that they would dedicate 14 days for vaccinating everyone, and that he announced that he would not get vaccinated until the 14th day, allowing everyone else to be vaccinated first. And you know, within 14 days, 97% of the population was vaccinated. That's compassion guided by wisdom. That's leadership. Fortunately, most infants are hardwired to be kind. That's what's in some people would call Buddha nature. But what are some of the common root causes of being unhappy or out of balance? Well, I would say that it's, in many respects, losing sight of our core values. So core values are the things that help us determine our goals, which in turn help in determining our priorities and daily actions. If we have those core values, it makes our decision-making throughout the day much easier. I love this 3-stanza quote by the Dalai Lama. Man and woman sacrifices his health for money, then ironically sacrifices money to recuperate. That's an imbalance. It's an imbalance. There's nothing wrong with making a comfortable living, but how much do we really need to be happy? And the sociology studies that I mentioned previously show that there's not a close association between how much money you have, unless you're extremely rich or extremely poor, and whether or not you're happy. He is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. Smell the roses. Smell the roses. It's really important. Be present. Be present. Don't always be thinking about the future or the past and ruminating over those things. It's not going to be helpful for you. It's not going to be healthy. He lives as if he's never going to die, then dies having never really lived. Well, you'll recognize this corner here. It's right there in your neck of the woods. And I took this when I was up there a number of months ago for a book talk that I gave. These missed opportunities are often a byproduct of destructive emotions, unhealthy, negative emotions. What are they? Well, greed, power. The real money's in insatiable greed. Ego, arrogance. You know, I'm getting a little tired of your holier than thou attitude. Envy, resentment. Of course, the Johnsons got the bigger cloud. Anger, another toxic one. Anger. Thank you for calling anger management. What the F do you want? So what's the antidote? Well, as we were talking about earlier, redefine family. I think that can be very helpful. You may not get along well with your biological family. That's okay. You want to be respectful to them, reasonably kind, but you don't have to be immersed in their trauma. So the key is that we're all connected. We're all interdependent, both not only presently, but past and future also. In Buddhism, they have the endless knot, which shows this and symbolizes this interconnectedness. I just got back, as I said, from Bhutan, and I stopped off in India, gave a book talk there, and opened an exhibition of my work at the Tibet Museum. But the G20 summit is going to be there in the fall, and their slogan is One Earth, One Family, One Future. That's the external, how we're connected to others in the outside of ourselves. But there's also the internal, the concept that the heart and mind are inseparable. His Holiness calls it the heart mind, because throughout Asia, they don't have a separate term for heart and for mind. In Sanskrit, it's called citta. Citta means heart mind. And in the United States, if you talk about where's your mind, people oftentimes will put their hand on the top of their head. If you ask that same question in Asia, a lot of times people will put their hand over their heart. So the brain may be up here, but the heart mind is an interconnected web, and they are supportive of each other. If we're only relying on our emotions all the time and not engaging our mind or wisdom, then we're likely to be out of balance, and vice versa. If we're totally analytical about everything and don't listen to our conscience, don't listen to our intuition, then again, we're lost. There has to be a balance between the two. So after we finish services today and a small break, what I'll be again talking about is some practical strategies for living a balanced life and achieving true happiness. So for those that can stay around, hopefully this will be a nice dialogue, and we'll get into a 6-step process for navigating through life's challenges. The exhibition that's at the Tibet Museum now and is going to Museo Camera outside of Delhi is all about that. This is just some installation shots from the exhibition. So we already mentioned the book. You all are welcome to look at that book. And it uses photographs from throughout Asia to talk about some of these universal principles. It's received 3 International Book Awards. And thankfully, Jabberwocky Bookshop has some copies there for you if you want to get copies, and you can support the bookstore. You can also get copies through our foundation's website, Shades of Compassion website, by making a donation and get a signed, personalized copy of the book. And then 100% of the money goes to nonprofits again, here you can get the book. And you can also contact me if you want to just talk about other things or whatnot. And the money from the book, when you get it through the foundation, goes to teach compassionate children worldwide and micro grants to empower disadvantaged women. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. And I'll stop the screen share.
Thank you, John. Well, that didn't work quite the way that we had hoped, but we had a wonderful message to hear. Yeah, just.
Thank you all as we're going through this, trying things out. All of the slides will be available on our YouTube channel after the service. So if you want to go back and see, John read everything, nothing got left out. So we got the full experience, but there are some visual aids that will be available on our YouTube channel after the service. Let me reset for us so that people on Zoom can see all of you. And thank you again as we continue to improve and expand what we are able to do together. Thank you.
Just to follow on, John mentioned that his book is available at Jabberwocky. If you have not seen his book, I highly encourage you to at least just go in and have a look, because it's a large coffee table sized book. Yes, Lance is showing it here, and Lance designed that book. So it is, I will just say that the photographs carry such an incredible spirit of love and compassion and care. It is a stunningly beautiful book. So, Justin, are we ready to move on? Thank you. Please rise, embody your spirit, and we sing our closing hymn, Blessed Spirit of My Life. It's number 86.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity, let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision, clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me,
Please remain standing and join in the saying of our unison benediction as Steve extinguishes the chalice. The words are there in your order of service. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us
now and always. If you would like to stay with the question and for the question and answer session following the service, will begin in just a few moments. And so, may the love that is the creative and sustaining force of all surround you in the days ahead. May you go from here in peace, and may you return to this sacred space together again next week. Blessings to all.